Dear colleagues and friends, it is my pleasure to start an interview, which I will do with our long-term ambassador and friend, Steffen. Professor Steffen Thirstrup is a director at NDA, and he has such an impressive biography that I will even not start to read it, because if I start read it, our 15 minutes will be gone. So Steffen, I think you are ready to start answering my questions. And the first question is, we have a title of this event, which is called Bridging the Gaps Between Southeastern Europe and the Nordics. We know that in Europe, there is a huge difference between East and West, but also North and South. And my question is, can we really bridge this gap once? I know that you know Bulgaria relatively good. We have met several times, we have spoken several times. What's your impression? Is this gap bridgeable or not?
Well, thank you, Dimitar, first of all, for inviting me, and thanks to the organizers for inviting me yet again for the Biotech Atelier. It's much appreciated, and thanks for the introduction. To your question, yes, I believe this bridge is, or this gap, sorry, is bridgeable, but I don't think there is a quick fix in doing so. It is a long-term investment. It's a long haul to build that bridge, to get there, because the more I think about the related question is why is the Nordic the Nordic countries, the Scandinavian countries in particular, what makes the difference here when it comes to the healthcare system and how it's built? And it's not something that has been created overnight. I think it goes back to maybe back to the 70s or late 60s, when a social welfare state was created with a public healthcare system, tax financed. There is a private sector in the Nordic countries, but it plays a minor part, and is actually an active part in the healthcare system. It can help take care of it has extra capacity and can help the public healthcare system. But the public healthcare system, tax financed, is the driver, and that's also where you can get access to not only basic medical treatment, but actually highly innovative, novel therapies and advanced therapies, and medicines, including the advanced therapies, are to a large extent either free or with only a minimal private contribution, or at least with a cap on this. So it comes back to how society is built. So it's going to be a long task to get there, but it's not unbridgeable, definitely.
That's a very nice answer, and also very nice opening of our conversation. There are a lot of cultural difference. For example, I was invited once for a dinner in Sweden at 5:30. But if you invite somebody for a dinner in Bulgaria at 5:30, he will be offended. So we usually eat dinner at 7:30. But if we invite somebody in Spain for dinner at, say, 7:30, he will be offended also, because they have dinner at 9:30 p.m. So that's the cultural difference in Europe. And I think that besides difference in taxation, there is also a huge difference in the trust which Bulgaria has to public institutions, in contrary to the trust which I have experienced in the Nordic countries. Do you have any recipe or any suggestion how we should overcome this misbelief in the public structures in Bulgaria?
Well, I completely agree with you, Dimitar, that it's not only trust in the healthcare system, it's trust in the public sector, it's trust in politicians, in trust in decision making. And that is perhaps an even longer bridge to build, because again, here history plays in. Eastern Europe have another history than Northern Europe. coming out of the Soviet area 30 years ago. There's still a lot of lack of trust here, because that's the other part that, and I don't really have the answer why we in the Nordic countries have so huge trust in the authorities. We can take the COVID-19 vaccination, where there has been a huge uptake in the Scandinavian countries, whereas if you go to some, I would say many Eastern and Southeastern European countries, the take-up has been much less. There are vaccine skeptics in Denmark and Sweden, but there are fewer of them. And generally, there's a trust that what the authorities say is to be believed. I think one of the things that comes there is that there is transparency in decision making. It's very clear why a decision is being made. It's possible for everybody to access a lot of the background documents and understand why decisions, or at least being given the arguments as to why a certain decision has been made. And then another thing, and I think that's linked to the transparency, is that there is almost no corruption. So I don't imply that there's corruption in Bulgaria, but there's definitely a difference in the degree of corruption on many levels of society. We're not necessarily talking about big corruption in the government level, but that there is this parallel economy and understanding of doing favors and so forth, which suddenly becomes untransparent, and therefore you create this hidden system going beyond the lines. So transparency, low corruption rate, and of course you can always derail the train if suddenly histories or true histories about corruption, scandals, dishonest politicians and so forth. So it is a thin ice you're walking on, of course, but the less you have of those stories, the better. Not that you should suppress them. It should be real. They do not exist.
Yes, you are right. Actually, corruption is a big issue in the Bulgarian society, unfortunately. And what I know from the history of Bulgaria in the last 150 years, it was always a topic in our society: corruption, engaging with the family in the politics, doing not the right things for the country, but for your own pocket. So it's not only the Soviet era. It's, I think, more profound, coming also from the Ottoman Empire, when corruption was actually the normal way of doing business instead of being transparent and honest. And my next question is, I have a lot of colleagues who think that digitalization of healthcare will at least reduce with 50% the corruption in healthcare. Do you think that this is real, or that this can be possible, knowing how digital the Nordic healthcare is?
But again, if you're going to, if patients are to share their healthcare data, digital healthcare data, with the authorities, that needs trust.
Exactly.
That the authorities will actually keep those data secret and only share those data with those you as a patient have given permission to share them with. Because then again, if that trust doesn't exist, and that you as an individual and as a society as a whole can be confirmed that that is actually to be trusted, then I don't think digitalization will get you there. It could actually create an even bigger problem, that if you end up giving the government or the healthcare system access to everybody's healthcare data, if they suddenly get shared or even sold, or sold with money under the table, you get an even bigger scandal. So trust again, trust and transparency, and that you as an individual have full right to your data, and the full right that you, if you tell the authorities, yes, I'm okay that you share these data for this data purpose, for this research project and so forth, then it's okay. But as soon as you get the feeling or the notion that you as an individual don't have full control over where your data are going, I think you lose the trust. And then digitalization will make it even worse.
Yes, that's a interesting perspective, because we think, at least part of the Bulgarian society thinks, that digitalization will at least block the bad practices in terms of corrupted payments in the healthcare. But probably you are right that this can demotivate people if the institutions are still not fair
You at
towards the
least
patients and
need
towards.
sorry for interrupting, Dimitar. You need a government structure around the digital healthcare. Digitalization does not solve the problem. You need also some governance around it that reassures people that what goes in here is actually kept in the right order.
Actually, I think that I have survived through minimum 10 programs, governmental programs for digitalization of healthcare. And they never have been ended properly. So we don't have digital healthcare, unfortunately, right now. And this is one of the reasons why people don't think that they can trust to the government and the institutions. And this is actually, I think, one of the biggest gaps between Bulgaria and the Nordics, that there is a demotivation to work with the government, with the public structure. And in a way, in Bulgaria now, especially in the last 2-3 years with COVID and now with the war, everybody is taking care on himself or herself without any solidarity, any form of solidarity, which actually is the background of the very solid and reliable healthcare and social welfare system in the Nordic countries, but also in other countries in Europe, like Germany, Austria, Netherlands. And the next topic, which is also not in favor of bridging the gap, of course, is the general road for improvement of the society. Because in Bulgaria, and I think also in all Balkan countries, but probably also in other countries from Eastern Europe, from the former Soviet Empire, we have been relying always on the government. And a very nice expression in Bulgaria was, go to the university to have a lazy life after that. So you go to the university not to work hard. And this perception has been changed, of course, in the last years, but still there is an understanding that the government should give us a lot, but we should not give to the government anything. And this is an unfair balance in the society. If you expect the government to feed you and you don't give back what is expected, then there could not be a good healthcare system, cannot be a good social system. And also, I think that the interaction between public and institutions and the individual is completely devastated. So now, unfortunately, we went through the 14 minutes of our interview, and I would like to ask you one last question. Do you think that in the next 10 years, we will be able to narrow this gap between Nordics and the Balkans in the aspect of the turbulent times we are living in now? I need an honest answer, Stefan, not a political one.
I actually, yes, of course you can cast out. We have had at least 2 years with COVID-19 disrupting society. Now there is a war in Europe going on that could be equally disruptive. But it could also, on the other hand, actually bring us all closer together in a pan-European common understanding that we are in this together, and we need to learn of each other, and we need to get closer. So if I put on my optimistic pair of glasses, I would say yes, this is possible, there are a lot of evil forces out there that are trying to do the opposite. But I also think that if we utilize those evil forces and oppose them, we could actually turn the clock and make it something that brings European, and that does not necessarily have to be EU, but Europeans closer together.
Thank you, Steffen. Unforgettable 15 minutes, as always. Wish you good luck and good health, and hope to see you soon in Sofia.
Yeah, thank you, Dimitar. The same to you. Good health, and we'll be in touch.
You.
Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.